Okay, it's the appointed hour. I'm going to call the regular council meeting for the town of Westville to order for the month of July. Start by saying that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we are all treaty people as we work towards truth and reconciliation. Also want to acknowledge the histories, legacies, and contributions of the African Nova Scotia people who have been here for over 400 years. Roll call. Councillor Sarah McKinnon, Councillor Clary McKinnon, CAO Weirs, myself, Mayor White, Deputy Mayor Murphy, Councillor McGregor, Recording Secretary Reid, all present and accounted for. Any declaration of conflict of interest to declare? Hearing and seeing none, move on then to the additions, deletions, and approval of the tentative agenda. And I do think we had, CAO had one item to add to the agenda that's not on the package?
Correct.
And that was, I know, this is a skill testing question.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah,
Recording
Doing well,
secretary is
thank
way
you.
ahead of you, see?
Good to see you.
yes.
Okay, so we're all good then? Accept a motion to approve the agenda as circulated?
I move we accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Approval of the council meeting of June 24th, 2024.
Your worship, I would move that the minutes for the meeting of June the 24th be approved as circulated.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on to committee reports. First report is my mayor's report for the month, which was attached to your agenda package, I believe, and I think it speaks for itself. I don't need to make any further comment on that. Moving along, as you can see, we got a thick package in front of us. So, moving on then to Deputy Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Your Worship. All right, so I'd like to start off with saying July 1st, huge success. I'd like to thank Public Works for all the work they do every year, cleaning up the town and making it look so nice, so appreciate that. Attended the retirement celebration for Chief Howie Dunbar, and we wish him the best. Attended Police Commission, PAC. We had some budget training sessions. Glen Haven, who didn't meet this month, but we're working on the draft budget, and that should be available for approval in August. On the LOC, had a nice announcement. Received $1.2 million, which is an investment over 5 years from the Sobeys Foundation. This is going to establish a program to support community impact organizations to such like nonprofits and community groups. The role would help these organizations access resources in areas that have impacted our economic development, such as daycare and stuff like that. I think it's an excellent reflection on the partnership's hard work and all the municipalities' unity and commitment to it, because that goes a long way when they're evaluating these types of grants and resources. Just want to remind everybody the sign unveiling for Megan's Place on July 31st. Social Committee's Music in the Park starts first Wednesday in August. And again, thanks to Public Works for putting up the firefighter banners, getting a lot of good positive responses from that, and we really appreciate that. And another reminder, truck pull on August 10th over in the mine. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Clary McKinnon.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I am quite excited about Riverview Home Corporation. Over the last few months, Westville has been talked about at numerous meetings in a positive way, and we are implementing the remedy report, which means eventually the closing of the adult residential center out in Riverton. And the corporation has purchased a home on Angel Street, and there are already 2 residents that have been moved in there, and hopefully there will be a 3rd. But more exciting news is that it looks as if, or at least consideration is being given to 2 major bills in Westville, and we hope that will come to fruition. And the good thing about this is the fact that full taxation will be on all of the homes that are in Westville and elsewhere in the county. At one time, Westville used to write off the full amount of taxation for Riverview Home Corporation, and other units were either writing off a percentage or not writing off anything at all. So we went to full taxation, and Trenton has done that, and I think the other units are getting full taxes from units. So this is good news for Westville. These new units, if built in Westville, will be very expensive bills, and we are excited about that. Numerous contacts regarding various items, roads and what have you, other concerns in the town. But most important is, and I raised this at Police Commission, is the three-way stop on Cowan Street and Porter's Lane, and asking for a real police presence there, because we have some people, almost everyone is obeying what they should do there, but we have some rolling stops, we have some that actually speed up to go through it, and we've had some screeching of tires. But I see a change in traffic, particularly in our area, with a slowing down for sure. The fire department, as the representative of council on the fire department, as the deputy mayor mentioned, to see these new banners up in town is really something else. 67 banners with past and present members on those, and it's just so touching. The first day they were up, it took me forever to drive down the street to see them all and so on. It's so exciting. And regarding the fire department, July 1st, as the deputy mayor mentioned, just outstanding. The 48 truck was just in remarkable shape, and a lot of people were talking about it. And the fact that the winner of the 50-50 draw for the fire departments in Nova Scotia was someone who marked Westville this time as the department he was supporting, and Mike Jones got $244,108, and that's nice to come into Westville too. And I see the chief is present here tonight, and just a big heartfelt thank you to you and all the department, and to Public Works as well, for what they do in relationship to July 1st. So thank you. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to start off echoing the sentiment from Councillor McKinnon, the chiefs in the room here, as well as some other firefighters, and just excellent job with July 1st this year. Same as every year, only better. So you've outdone yourself this year, and just heartfelt thanks to you folks for everything for July 1st, and everything you do all the time, but in particular July 1st with this report. It was a typical month. I'd be remiss to say, though, that there's a lot of rumors swirling around town lately about certain developments and things of that nature. So I think all of us in council have been fielding a lot of calls in and around that space. Anytime you see survey crews out walking around, you know, I can go on record here, and I know the mayor has already done so publicly, that there's been no decisions made on anything, anywhere, for anything. It's literally just shaping up to know kind of what we own and where it is from a town perspective. Kind of up in particular in and around the old high school property seems to be where most of the rumors have been swirling lately. So just wanted to touch on that, because that was a number of phone calls that I fielded in the last month. In addition to that, the regular business meetings that we've had, planning advisory, the police commission, audit committee this year, this particular month as well, in and around some budget discussions. I also attended the retirement of Chief Dunbar, and congratulations to him, and a welcome to Chief Hoback, who's covering for us here from Stellarton now. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sarah McKinnon.
All right, good evening, folks. I'm going to keep this fairly brief. I see we have a major agenda here tonight. I did attend all council-related meetings this month and responded to various emails from citizens of Westville. Again, kudos. I echo what my colleagues here are saying tonight. Just another amazing Canada Day here in Westville. Westville is definitely the place to be on Canada Day, and it's only getting better and better, and that's thanks to all of the incredible work that happens behind the scenes. One of the additions that we had this Canada Day during the parade was that we had the accessible washroom downstairs available to those that required an accessible washroom during the parade, which I believe was a great success. So thanks to Joe for making sure that that went smoothly. And it'll be definitely something that we continue to do in the future. And that is my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. CAO Weirs.
I don't have anything in addition to the report that's in the package.
Thank you. Your report was circulated. I know that part of the package. Quite comprehensive. Moving on then, Protective Services, Chief of Police report, which was attached to the agenda.
I'll move to approve the protective services of the Chief of Police report, the Fire Department, and Dog Control reports attached.
Second it?
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question?
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services, the coordinator's report was attached.
Your Worship, I'd move to accept the Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services report as circulated.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question?
Questions called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Once again, a very active month and months to come, but that report outlines it quite well, I believe. Lots of things going on recreation and culturally wise in the town. Hope people are taking advantage of the work that's being done by the coordinator. I know they are. Transportation, Environmental, and Health Services.
Your Worship, I would move that the Transportation and Environmental Health Services report, which includes the water report, the Public Works report, the solid waste report, and the Pictou County Transit Expansion report.
I'll second
And I
that.
so move.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
On the
Question.
question, Your Worship?
On the question?
Just, it's nice to see the Pictou County Transit Expansion Report on there for the first time for June and July. Although I think we should take it in perspective that it is a new service.
Right.
It is summertime, which is by the end of August, we'll get a pretty good picture of that. Then we just move into September, October, November, we'll get a good snapshot of the fall and kids back to school and stuff and see how that stacks. So hopefully by December, we should have an early gauge of the system. But I wouldn't get too excited about the low ridership rate yet, but it should definitely be looked at by the end of the year.
I think we're
And
showing
it's
20.
nice to have it every month.
I think we're showing 20 for the month of June, if I'm not mistaken. But you're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor. I agree 100%. And we've fallen down a little bit, and I admit this freely and openly in our promotion. Perhaps we've been a little slow to keep the message out there in front of people that this service is now in place, and the times that they're coming through town and the stops. And we will be taking steps to do a better job at that. The CAO and myself had an opportunity last week to have a meeting with the Transit Authority, and that was one of the matters that was raised, that I raised, because the province has also said that they would come aboard and help with the advertising and promotion, and that is going to happen, print-wise and that sort of thing. So hopefully in the near future we'll be seeing some more material come out that will enable people to better understand where the stops are and when the stops are being made. So good point.
The only other thing I would add,
yeah.
Your Honor, is that, the advertising that that Pictou County Transit itself was going to do hasn't yet occurred either.
Right.
So there's a couple of layers of public notification that just haven't happened yet for a whole bunch of reasons. And those will start happening in the very near future.
I'm very pleased, personally, I think, just because of the time of year that you say, Deputy Mayor, and the fact that it's new and under-advertised, to have that number of people utilize it is a good sign, I believe. And I know it's going to be successful. Okay, we need the question. Ready for the question?
Question?
Question.
Question is being called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Environmental Development, the Fire Inspection, Planning Advisory, and Dangerous and Unsightly Report.
Your worship, I'd like to move the environmental development reports as presented, Fire Inspection, Planning Advisory Commission, and Dangerous and Unsightly Report.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And go to Councillor McGregor's comments about the calls with regard to various development items going on in town and so on. That report details a significant number of them. It's I think it's a 7 or 8 page report, which is a tremendous sign. I don't mind trees being used for that purpose to print those reports. They're good to see, and a lot of those items that are listed in there will be coming to fruition in the not too distant future, I believe. Okay, correspondence. Don't think nobody sends us any letters anymore. We just get emails and comments on social media. That's it's where we are. It's 2024. New and unfinished business then. The Pictou County Firefighters Association Intermunicipal Fire Service Agreement, which I know you all had a chance to review. Bit of a formality, I believe, in our case, that we have to
Yeah.
approve it to CAO.
Yeah, if I could just, so it actually isn't signed by council.
Right.
It's signed by the fire chief, but council needs to direct the chief to sign on behalf of the town. The document was circulated to everybody. It's pretty, it was built by a committee of fire officials from across Pictou County. I know that members of the Westville Police, or the Fire Department, had a significant role in drafting. The chief is here if you have any specific questions. And if you don't, I do have a draft resolution that I could read, and somebody could decide to move and second if that's your choice.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Whereas the town of Westville has been invited to be a party to the intermunicipal fire service agreement, and whereas the town of Westville has received and reviewed a draft, of the 2024 intermunicipal fire service agreement developed by the Pictou County Firefighters Association, therefore be it resolved that the town of Westville does not endorse the agreement and declines to be bound by its terms and conditions.
Does.
Does.
Doesn't do.
But it does say.
It says does not, which I was hesitant about when I read. Seemed a little harsh. Can I go back?
I think it says does.
It says does not.
It actually, I
think that's
noticed
a
that as
typo.
Okay.
I noticed that as a typo. And,
Okay, therefore be it resolved that the town council of Westville does endorse the agreement and declines to be bound,
agrees to-
by it.
Agrees.
Agrees. You guys are setting me up for failure tonight. And agrees to be bound by its terms and conditions.
Thank you. Have a
Second it, for sure.
Moved and seconded. Everyone clear on the motion? I think we are. All kidding aside. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions
was
called. All those in
surprised
favor
to
say
see
aye.
that.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. The chief doesn't know this, but I asked the CAO to invite the chief here for an ulterior motive as well. I thought this was a good excuse to get him here because we're dealing with the intermunicipal agreement, which we all agreed to. It came to I realized recently that it's I didn't realize recently that it's the 150th anniversary of the fire department. I've known that for a year or more, a couple of years in fact, but it is the 150th anniversary of the fire department. But I did come to the realization that as a council and as a representatives of the town, we haven't formally acknowledged that in any way. So we drafted a bit of a document to state that and to indicate that and honor that.
and
And
declines.
I'm going to ask the chief to come forward, and if somebody has a photo taking device, maybe somebody could take a photo. But I want to present
I can do that.
Chief Dunn with the certificate from the town. Coming up here somewhere. Go over here. We'll go over here.
Okay.
And so I just want to read the certificate. Says, from the town of Westville, the town council, on behalf of all residents of Westville, wish to congratulate the Westville Fire Department members, both current and past. We recognize the tremendous sacrifice and dedication the members have made over the years to protect the citizens of Westville. We further thank members for the valuable contributions they make to the community that go well beyond firefighting. The many public events organized under the fire department add greatly to the spirit of the town. Some of those things we've been talking about tonight. We extend sincere gratitude for all you have done over these many years. Congratulations on the occasion of their 150th anniversary. Thank you very much. Please take that back to the members, Tim, for us. And it goes without saying, we recognize, as the word say, hopefully, not just 150, but every day, what you guys all do. It's amazing. I knew there wouldn't be any questions on the intermunicipal thing, by the way, Ken.
Yeah. Or typos.
Yeah, or typos. Okay, moving on then. We're going to deal with the approval of the budget. So we had a presentation of the budget previously to council and by our staff and finance department. So I'm going to ask for approval of the budget this evening, and maybe I'll put the CAO on the spot because this is without forewarning, just to comment on a high level on the budget as we're going to be adopting here this evening. By the way, we could not put it out to the public until it is approved by council, but after tonight, when it is approved, which I anticipate it will be momentarily here, then it will be available to the public, and we'll have them copies downstairs, I'm sure, Christian, and we'll put it on our social media. We'll put it on our social medias as well.
Yeah, the website.
Website,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So there is a small increase, I guess I would say, in total expenditures. So it is a balanced budget and no increase in tax rate. The total budget this year is just over $6 million, $6,013,172. Last year's budget was $5,600,000 roughly. So a small increase, and we're projecting a zero balance budget.
As we are mandated to do by the province, by the way.
Correct.
We have to have a balanced budget. We're not like the province and the feds who can run up any kind of overtures that they want, deficits. We can't do that. So, and the important thing, I think, so we'll need a resolution. I'm sure you have that.
Yeah, I have a
Sue?
resolution I can read if you'd
Please
like.
do, please.
Whereas the town of Westville is required to prepare and approve an annual operating and capital budget for the town. Whereas town council has received and discussed a proposed operating and capital budget and has determined that there will be no change in tax rates. Therefore, be it resolved that the estimated expenditures of the town of Westville for the period April 1, 2024 to March 31, 2025 be approved and adopted in the amount of, I've got a slightly different number here, sorry, this is the correct number. $5,979,367. And after taking allowance for an estimated estimated revenue, the amount of $4,871,553. The amount of $4,107,814 is required from the general taxation, and the assessed valuation of $181,366,100. The residential rate is 2.13 cents per hundred. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize the levying and collection of a rate for the current year of $2.13 per hundred of assessment for residential and resource property. Be it further resolved that council authorizes the leveling and collection of a rate for the current year of $3.95 per hundred of assessment for commercial property. Wastewater rate of $1.17 per cubic meter of water consumed. So therefore be it resolved that council authorizes the levying and collection of a rate for the current year of $1.17 per cubic meter of water consumed. Be it further resolved that the payment of rates and taxes set down for 2024 is accepted and approved by council shall be required to be made to the treasurer on or before the 23rd day of October 2024. An additional charge at the rate of 1.17% per month shall be and is hereby imposed for the non-payment of such rates and taxes by the 20th day of June 2024 on an interim bill, and the same rate for the non-payment of such rates and taxes by the 23rd day of October on the final billing. Such interest be added monthly after the due dates above.
Your worship, I would move that we accept the 2024-2025 budget, noting no increase in residential, commercial, or water rates as presented.
I'll
Second
second
it.
that.
Moved and unanimously seconded by all of council. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Questions being called. All those in favor say
Just
aye.
on the question, Your
Just on the
Worship,
question.
just a quick question there, because I can't get this to open. Just to confirm, though, that there was small surplus from the
previous year?
from the previous year that gets
Yeah,
gets rolled
it was,
into.
there was a surplus of $220,000, $223,000.
Anything else? Any other questions before we?
That went directly on debt owed, did it not?
Yeah,
Someone to reserves.
it was just transferred
Reserved.
to, yeah.
Yep.
Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Next one is the approval of the audited financial statements for previous year. CAO Weirs.
Yeah, this will be a little shorter, thankfully. Whereas the Audit Committee, Town of Westville, has received and reviewed the March 31, 2024 audited consolidated financial statements and audit strategy and results report prepared for the town by the auditors, and whereas the Audit Committee has determined the March 31, 2024 audited consolidated financial statements and results report are complete, they are recommending that the town approve the acceptance of the March 31, 2024 audited consolidated financial statements and audit strategy and results report for the town of Westville. Therefore, be it resolved that Town Council of Westville approves the March 31, 2024 audited consolidated financial statements and audit strategy and results report for the town of Westville.
We have a mover.
I'll move that.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
Your Worship,
Yep.
just back to the budget, there's a second part in relation to the water utility and capital as well that needs to
Yeah, it's
get
coming.
moved. Yeah.
I think it's
Supposed to be there anyway.
it,
Oh, it's not on the agenda.
the capital is, oh, I thought it was, sorry.
Yeah, but we can do that. So you did, it was general operating and capital is what you did for the town itself. So I do
budget.
have a resolution for the
Water.
for the water as well.
We'll deal with that now.
All right, let me read that resolution to you then. Whereas the town of Westville is required to prepare and approve an annual operating and capital budget for the water utility, and whereas town council of Westville has received and discussed a proposed water utility operating and capital budget, therefore be it resolved, town of Westville council approve a water utility operating budget for 2024-2025 with proposed revenue of $1,213,183 and proposed expenses of $1,308,350 with a budgeted deficit of $95,167 to be funded from the water utilities accumulated surplus.
Have a motion on that?
Your worship, I would move that the resolution regarding the 2024-25 water utility operating and capital budget be approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Seconder? Ready for the question?
Question?
Question being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. We should point out that there still remains a surplus
Very
funds.
healthy surplus in the water utility.
Okay, so we're back on track, I think. Approval of community grants. C.A. Weirs.
Yeah, so just, the town of Westville receives requests and has a process for receiving those requests as part of the budget process. Council, in the run-up to this meeting, has reviewed all those applications that came in and has approved a series of those. And so whereas the town has a community grants program, and whereas the town council has reviewed those requests that have come in, therefore be it resolved that the town of Westville Town Council approve the grants that have been reviewed.
Have a motion, mover, seconder?
I will move the approval of the community grants as presented.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question? Any
Question.
questions?
Question.
Questions being called. All those in favor signify by
I
saying.
have
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
just a quick question. From my recollection, when we met and we were going over the different community grants, I expected that our results for this upcoming year, the number was very similar to last year's, and it seems larger than expected. If anybody could just explain to me, like, where the difference is there?
Those were the requests.
We didn't
and
approve 50,000.
What we approved is much smaller than the request.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing what
The
you're, yeah.
request amounted to over $50,000.
Yeah.
Right.
But we had available to us a significant amount less than that in our
That's for
budget.
sure.
Right.
So what we were approving here, and perhaps we should have, rightly so, probably had the number, the total number that we are approving perhaps,
Yes.
without getting into the individual
Yeah, just without the names.
amounts. But the total,
Yeah.
Is about $13,000.
I was going to say.
And it is about 15,000.
Yeah, it's $37,070.38.
Okay. Great, thank you.
7?
No, that can't be correct.
No?
No, our budget was,
That includes the line item.
Yeah, so
ones.
there's a.
oh, that's, yes,
So-
okay.
Yeah.
The confusion is that some of what may be considered to be community grant monies are in line items in the budget
That's
separately.
right.
Yeah, so
We're-
for
We are
example.
talking about those that have requested monies from us for various organizations, community organizations and so on in the community. And that total was substantially less than that. We
Yeah.
budgeted
Yeah, so
13.
line items as examples would be things like CHAD Transit for people with disabilities. The Healthy Pictou County, which is the thing that services or finds medical staff for our hospitals and clinics. And so just so that the public knows, those organizations that have been approved tonight will be notified of the thing. But we aren't, just doesn't seem appropriate to kind of go through the very long list and outline who gets what. So it's something that we'll reach out to those organizations and let them know what council has decided.
Yeah.
Yeah, Your Worship, a lot of those were very small donations, and our total was much less than $10,000. We're very concerned about what we actually give out in grants, because we are dealing with taxpayers' money. So I think we did a very good job of going through and making sure that a lot of organizations got what they asked for, and some got less,
Yeah, it was,
and some we weren't able to approve.
Your Worship, it was 8590
Yeah, was the
Total.
was the
Yeah.
total when you remove
And-
the
and-
rest of the line items that were budgeted for elsewhere.
And that would allow us to look at some small ones, as we usually do throughout the year, but it's only $10,000 that we have in the budget for
Right,
that.
Okay.
And
Thank
we,
you for the
no doubt,
clarification.
we always
Yeah.
Yeah,
receive
it's a
some.
good point.
We always receive some, as you pointed out, throughout the year as well, in addition to these ones. These are the major donations that we make by those groups that have submitted to us a request on the deadline, which I think is the end of February usually.
Okay.
All right, so we're good for the,
Good.
on the question then? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on then to appointment of committee members. The Planning Advisory Committee had an opening recently for a citizen appointee to the Planning Advisory Committee, as most of you are aware. We have generally 2 citizens serve on the Planning Advisory Committee, and one member, Doug Oliver. Once again, I want to thank Doug for his longtime service on the voluntary service on the Planning Advisory Committee. Retired recently, so we had an opportunity to advertise again, and we did receive submissions, and the CAO and myself conducted interview, and we have a recommendation for council as far as an appointment to the Planning Advisory. Now, I think CAO would.
Yeah, just a note that, we're required to have a planning advisory committee under the MGA. So pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, 1998, Section 18 is amended. The town of Westville has the authority to appoint public members to the Planning Advisory Committee, whereas Westville residents Robert Partington and Neville McKinnon have the knowledge, ability, and willingness to serve on the committee, and whereas the Planning Advisory Committee at its July 17th, 2024 meeting recognized the need to recommend to council the appointment of public members to the committee for 2-year terms expiring December 31st, 2026. Therefore, be it resolved, Westville Town Council appoints Robert Partington and Neville McKinnon to the Planning Advisory Committee for 2-year terms expiring December 31st, 2026. Be it further resolved that Robert Partington be appointed Chair of the Planning Advisory Committee for a 2-year term expiring on December 31st, 2026.
Thank you, CAO. Just correct the name. I believe it was Nevin.
Nevin,
Nevin.
sorry, what did I say?
Neville.
I'm sorry. Yes, I misread
Sure, it's
it.
printed Nevin. You
Yes, it is printed.
just- There you go. So,
Your Worship, I would like to make that motion to accept Mr. Paddington to the position of chair, and Mr. Nevin McKinnon to the PAC, and also to thank Doug for his many years of service.
I'll second that.
moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question?
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Very good. Moving on to the Comprehensive Development District Zone Policy and Bylaw. If that's not a mouthful, I think we'll shorten that to, we'll use an acronym, obviously, of CDDZ. I don't know what we call it.
CWDZ.
Yeah.
I do have a resolution for you. Whereas the Westville Planning Advisory Committee has received and reviewed a draft of planning amendments intended to allow for the creation and management of comprehensive development district zones for the town of Westville, and whereas CDD zones are designed to assist the town in managing the development of large parcels of land within the town, and whereas PAC has recommended to, the Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to the Town Council to approve the draft CDD zone amendments, and whereas Town Council has reviewed and discussed the draft CDD zone amendments, therefore be it resolved that Town Council approves the comprehensive district zone amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw as presented.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Moved that we accept the policy as presented, and it's the first also, this motion is, just so everyone is aware, this motion is twofold.
It's our first reading.
We are adopting the policy, which we can do
Right.
by ourselves without any further action by any other level of government. Bylaw requires that we do 2 readings and hold a public hearing and get the approval of the province. So we are doing the policy, which we can do on our own, and we're also, on this motion, doing, accepting first reading of the bylaw. So the second reading of the bylaw with a public hearing prior to it will take place at our next council meeting in August, just so everyone's clear on that. And I don't know, I know CAO, you read the resolution, which outlines what it is, but I wonder if before we, I'll call for the motion at least anyway, if we could have a motion,
I'll motion.
second,
Second?
just before we,
Yeah, we already did that. I think,
did we? I'm sorry.
we had that
Oh,
already.
okay, my fault.
Just around the question.
My fault. Before we go to the vote on it or ask for the question, I just wonder if in layman's terms, that everyone can understand, if you can just indicate what the rationale is for moving in this direction, what the intended outcome we hope that will come from it.
So comprehensive development districts are planning tools that allow municipalities to do plans for larger pieces of land that are within a municipality. And Westville has the very envious position, I guess, of having within its boundaries a number of very large, in some cases very large tracts of land, some of them owned by the town, many of them not owned by the town. And so an example might be what's currently known as the Highland Consolidated School Lands. That's a 21-acre tract of land in the middle of town that has been school land. It was a school for many decades, and for the last decade has been essentially vacant. A CDD allows the town to kind of come up with a plan for what might happen in the future for that area of land. We also have another 10-acre, the town owns another 10-acre tract of land on Temperance Street. Again, it's never been developed. There's been no planning. It's zoned residential, but there's been no plan developed for it. So a CDD allows the town to kind of identify what sorts of zones, what sort of activities would be allowed in those, or on those tracts of land, and then make that available to the public so people can understand what could conceivably occur on a tract of land. And it allows then for development agreements on those tracts of land to be built and applied. And it gives the town the capacity to, in a rational and planful way, look into the future and identify desires for development on those larger tracts of land.
Thank you very much. I think that's a good explanation. And it's a first step for us to enable us to do a lot more with these larger pieces of land.
Yeah, it
And-
doesn't in itself approve anything.
No, no.
Right? But what it
It
sets,
it sets the framework.
correct, thank you. That's
Sets the
way to say
framework
it.
in place so that we can move on some of these things. And, you know, once again, Councilor McGregor, you're probably getting more calls now on the Highland School property, I'm sure, as a result of this. But this is a first step, and that was the one that probably triggered it in the planning advisory committees and our planning officer's mind, that this would be a bonus to have this in place so that when these developments start happening, we can move that and use that as our framework. So, having said that, are you ready for the question?
Question?
Question's being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So once again, that was the first reading of that from a bylaw perspective, and we'll have the second reading, and there will be a public hearing on that at our next council meeting. Moving on to another policy approval then, and that's our public participation program policy.
Yeah, I have a resolution, Your Honor. Whereas Westville Planning Advisory Committee has received and reviewed a staff-prepared document outlining a proposed public participation program related to land use, planning decisions in the town of Westville. And whereas a Planning Advisory Committee has recommended that Town Council approve the public participation program policy, whereas Town Council has reviewed and discussed the public participation program policy, therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of Westville approves the public participation program
Alliteration.
policy as presented.
A lot of alliteration in that policy. We need a motion to accept that policy.
So move, Your Worship.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question?
Question's being called. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Once again, this is another piece of the puzzle, framework, I would call it again, to enable us to answer some of those questions that some council members are getting from citizens as to process and what's happening in any particular area of the town. So we want to be very clear and have a policy in mind that when there is a new development taking place, when something's about to take place, if there's hearings that are going to be taking place, that people are well versed, well aware of what is happening and have very good notice. I would say that.
Yeah, transparency is important, and this is an attempt to ensure that Westville has up-to-date approaches to transparency and making sure that people are notified of changes that may be coming.
Yes. So that is our hope with this policy, and we'll, after we have approval of it, we can institute that for the next series of things that will be coming before us.
The other thing I might just as context say, Your Honor, is that, we're going through a process of taking a look at our land use bylaws in an attempt to modernize and streamline those. And this is all part of laying the foundation for those sorts of changes. And over the next little while, I anticipate that working with the Planning Advisory Committee, we'll be bringing forward additional changes to our land use bylaws that will make it easier, faster, and more transparent to make changes in the town.
Yeah, Your Worship, no, I think it's important to highlight, there's some spillage where this came from, different developments that happened in town in relation to kind of minimum prescribed distances for notification, where a neighbor on one side of the street might have got something in the mail, 2 doors down might not have, things of that nature. And this really kind of, we've been trying to wrestle this to the ground for a while, because it's important. Like, there's some new built-in processes that folks might not have seen in the town of Westville over the years, but have seen in other jurisdictions or other municipalities. If there's going to be, like a site plan approval or a zoning change, that there'd be a sign on the property actually saying this property is under consideration for rezoning or something to that effect, as opposed to being in that very narrow radius of whatever it's not very many meters.
60
You know,
meters.
it's not very much when it can affect, you know, a whole area of the town potentially. So this new program just really enhances that. It's actually, you know, it's really going to just, with, you know, upcoming types of development on the horizon potentially in the town, I think this is just really going to open that transparency piece so that folks know that, you know, certain things are potentially going to happen in certain areas, you know, on an informed basis. So I think it was important just to kind of highlight that last little piece there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, yes. And
You're-
you're absolutely
you're-
right. The act requires that we do certain things as far as notification, but it's very minimal, and it's, I think they were designed, I think we said this before, but most of those notification things were designed for urban areas where you have a lot of concentrated residents in
Density,
a small radius. That's not the case in a town like Westville. So we want to go well beyond that to make sure that we let everyone know what's going on, because that's the I know that we're all getting that, at least I know I am. You keep talking about these changes that are coming, these developments that are happening. When are we going to find out about them? Like, when are you going to tell us what it is? Well, you know, this will go a long way to doing that. The notifications will go out when those developments come to fruition. So that's the whole idea.
Your worship, a few years ago, this policy probably would not have been necessary. But with all the things that are in the offing, and I know residents are getting very anxious to hear about these developments because we've been talking about them for a number of months now. And they are going to come to fruition, some of them very soon and some perhaps a ways off. I just am sorry that this is one of my last meetings as a counselor, and I wished if I were a younger person that I would be around for some of these things that take place. But they are coming sooner rather than later, and this policy is necessary, and I fully support it.
I think you have 4 more to go, so you got a few more yet.
The election coming in October, well, we'll see, yeah.
Yeah, I missed a month, sorry. You ready for the question?
Question.
Question's being called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on then to 9H, Conex. Ariel Freeman has presented a presentation earlier to us at a Committee of the Whole meeting on the Digital Community News Hub. And that has been discussed several times, I know. In fact, Ms. Friedman is here with us this evening in the audience. So we need to take action on that request. Chair would entertain a motion.
Your worship, I would like to comment, or do you want to have the motion first?
I think I'll follow rules of
Okay,
order on this
sorry.
one and ask for a motion first, and then we can follow by
All right,
discussion.
there is a motion here, good then.
Whereas Town Council Westville has received and reviewed a draft letter of intent outlining a proposed agreement between Connex and the Town of Westville to provide trustworthy and professional news coverage for the community on a trial basis for approximately 1 year for the fee of $1. And whereas during the trial period, Connex will work diligently to identify and secure funding channels to sustain and continue the provision of community news coverage on an ongoing basis. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town Council of Westville accepts and endorses the letter of intent.
Now we can have a motion if someone's prepared to move that.
Your worship, I was very impressed with Ariel Freeman's presentation, and didn't expect to get too much public reaction, ratepayer reaction, but I did, and there was a number of concerns raised, and number one.
I'm going to just stop you there for a second.
Yes.
Could we have the motion, if someone please make a motion, so we can have discussion on the matter?
Okay.
I'll motion that just to put it on the table for the
Thank you.
the Conex.
Have a seconder? You
Second
can't have
it.
discussion without a motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved and seconded.
Sorry to
ahead, sorry.
interrupt. I just wanted to go back to the motion as it was read. again, my form says, therefore it be it resolved that the town council of Westville declines to accept or endorse the letter of
can't have
intent.
a
That would not be in
Negative
order.
motion, but-
You can't make a negative motion.
Yeah, but that
Yeah,
was.
that
the-
is what
You
it's.
cannot make a negative motion.
Yeah, that's what
The
it
chair
says
will
on
not
mine.
accept a negative motion.
Okay.
The chair will follow Robert's Rules of Order,
Yeah.
which says you cannot make a negative motion.
that's right.
You can make a motion, and you can defeat the motion,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you so desire.
yeah. That's how it mine states in front of me again this
Well,
evening.
that's-
Example in the package.
So that was,
Same in yours?
What's that?
Is it the same
Yeah,
in yours?
I moved the one that was presented by CAO.
Right.
Yeah,
that
What he read
was
was
an error
different
that's in
than
the
what
in the
was
in our
package.
package.
And going
Okay.
forward, just a brief, I've raised the point, I know I sent out an email to council saying such, but, and I know we've had this discussion before, but my understanding, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, under the rules of order, you cannot make a negative motion.
Right.
So even though, if there's something that comes before council that you firmly disagree with, if you want to discuss it and you want to get it off the books, you need to have a positive motion, and then you vote accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
We're on the question.
Going back to,
On the question now,
going back to.
legally.
Going back to the comments that I began to make, there has been some concern expressed to me. Now, we're talking about a dollar initially, and we had a great presentation, and I felt that there was considerable merit in going ahead with this, but the concerns of ratepayers that I have talked to is that why Westville is sort of the first, and we don't have a lot of money, and there is the figure of $24 down the road was concerning to one person that contacted me, who was a former newspaper person and a ratepayer in town. And what is Westville getting into is the question that was put to me, and how much could it cost Westville in the long run? And I know grants are being sought and so on, but I just wanted to express the concerns that I had gotten, and the comment that there are communities that are better off than Westville, and why wouldn't one of them embrace such a concept ahead of Westville? So that's one thing that I heard, so I'm just putting that forward, and others probably have comments as well.
Yeah, Your Worship, I've had the same concerns. Personally, I think at our level of government, it's probably inappropriate to be subsidizing, even though it would have been an independent resource. And I think it's probably a little bit unfair competition-wise to other news services that support this area. So for those reasons, I'll probably be voting against the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just a further comment on the positive side is the fact that very few news media people ever show up at events anymore, and we are blessed here to have one present tonight and is present at all of our council meetings, and that's commendable. But there are all kinds of meetings that are taking place in municipal units around this province that very few media people are showing up anymore. So I thought in some respects this was a good thing to look at. However, I respect what ratepayers have brought forward to me.
And I echo that. I think it's just the idea of the cost of $25, an individual price cost, that was concerning to me. So that was where you lost me on that one. Yeah.
24 per person. But I
Yeah.
know there were grants involved there as well, and grants were going to
I think,
account for a lot of it.
yeah. Councilor McGregor, anything?
No, I think everything's been said. I'm of the same kind of same mindset. And unfortunately for folks, that's just kind of not where my head is. I don't know that it's appropriate for municipal councils to pay for their media coverage outside of kind of social media and social media budgets. There's a lot of free press out there, and I just don't think it's appropriate.
Your worship, to Ariel, since she is present here tonight, this did get considerable discussion. This isn't something that council just said, you know, it wasn't a good presentation or we didn't agree with it. It was an excellent presentation, and certainly parts of it were most appealing, but not enough, I guess, to warrant Westville being the first to go with it.
I think, and I think if I understand the discussion that's taken place amongst council, during council, I think it's a difficult thing to get our heads around as well. I can say that, even although, as you said, Councillor McKinnon, the presentation was well done. It's still a difficult thing to conceptualize in our minds. I think I don't want to put these words in anybody else around the table, but in my mind. And I think Councillor McGregor's point about at least a perception, and perception in the minds of most people often becomes reality, as we all know, that, you know, we're paying for our own press sort of thing. We're buying our press. We don't want to be seen as doing that. So, you know, I think those are some of the reasons that have made it difficult for us to say yay to moving forward. The motion before us is that. The motion before us says to take on the service at the dollar amount for the first year. So if nothing further, are you ready for the question?
Question.
Question is being called. So all in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay.
With regret, nay.
Motion is defeated. Okay. Moving on then to the mulcher head for the excavator.
Your Honor, I have a resolution for that, whereas Town Council Westville has received and reviewed a staff report outlining the costs and benefits of purchasing a mulcher header for the water utility excavator, and whereas Public Works staff have sought and received 3 quotes from for the equipment in question, and whereas the Westville Water Utility has sufficient capital budget to fund the acquisition of capital equipment, therefore be it resolved that Town Council Westville approve the expenditure of $46,500 for the purchase of a mulcher head for the excavator from Shearex. Be it further resolved that staff be directed to proceed with the purchase of the required equipment at their earliest convenience.
I'll
Some-
motion to move that.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
On the question, Your
On the
worship?
question? Yeah.
I think the business plan noted that the idea was to offer this service to other municipalities, which would make the payback on this less than 3 years, approximately.
Yeah, it'd be
if-
2 years, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
even better. Yeah, I just want to make that known, because it is a healthy dollar amount.
Very good point. And I assume that there's other surrounding municipalities that do not have such an item?
That's
Correct.
correct,
That
yeah.
they're available?
And they have to rent them, which is very, very expensive. So if we own it, it is something that we can rent out.
And further on the question, I guess my only comment would be to staff that I'm assuming it's been vetted that 20 person days a year potentially is removing the equipment and the operator from town, but obviously would be done so on, you know, our abilities to do so with that equipment, and it doesn't undermine our ability to execute our own work. So I assume that's considered. Thank you.
I think that's been taken into consideration.
Yes.
Quite sure it has.
Yeah.
Anything further? Ready for the question?
Question?
Question's being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Municipal Infrastructure Incentive Program.
Yeah, Your Honor, just as context, you know, the Westville has received a award from the Housing Accelerator Fund, and this program would be a way in which the town can use those funds to incentivize developers to develop property here in Westville. And it provides an equitable, an efficient way of allocating those funds and incenting development. And so we have a resolution that says, whereas the town of Westville has been awarded half funding, and whereas the Municipal Infrastructure Incentive Program will allow Westville to incentivize development in the town during the duration of the HAF program, therefore be it resolved that town council support or endorse the development and implementation of the Municipal Infrastructure Incentive Program.
Have a mover?
I'll move.
Seconder?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
On the question, Your Worship?
On the
Yeah.
question?
I think this is an excellent program. I think it's going to be a great way to bring more development to town. And if we can do all that, bring in the development in town and not an extra cost to the taxpayers, I think it's a real bonus.
And on the question, this doesn't change any of the other conditions or parameters that were already kind of laid out for the CMHC funding. This is kind of in addition to.
That's
is it?
right.
Yeah.
So, and the reality is, you know, we're in the final stages of negotiating those changes with CMHC.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
The other thing that, if I can say, the other thing that adopting this program policy will be, it'll be fair and equitable to any developer that comes, you know, to town looking for assistance through the Housing Accelerator Fund. You know, the Housing Accelerator Fund was given to us to create more housing, to address the housing need that exists across the country. And we were successful through the work of the CAO in applying for this and getting these monies. And I know that the CAO has wrestled for several months with how to allocate, you know, how do we, you know, it's a great issue to have, great problem to have, I should say. How do we spend the money? And how do we make it fair, and how do we get the most bang for the money as well? So I think that this policy that has been developed by the CAO addresses that in a very good way, and like I said, will be fair and equitable to anyone that comes before us looking to develop in the town, and it will enable us to spend the money that was provided to us in a reasonable way. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. The Provincial Capital Assistant Program, PCAP, better known as.
Right. So just again, context for this, council will recall that a couple of years ago, we proposed, or it was proposed, you approved, a multi-phase 4-year program to search for water source for Westville. And we've applied in 2023 to PCAP, the Provincial Capital Assistance Program. We applied again this year, and we were just notified recently that there has been a decision on that program, and therefore the resolution that I'm about to read will kind of deal with the important matter of making sure that the town wants to accept an award under the PCAP program. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Town Council of Westville approved a 4-phase multi-year Westville water project in 2022, and whereas the Town of Westville undertook public tendering process for Phase 1 of the Westville Water Project, and whereas Council approved a resolution endorsing the town making an application to the PCAP program for Phase 2 of the project on April 29th, 2024, and whereas the Town of Westville has recently been advised of the status of its 2024-25 PCAP application, therefore, be it resolved, Town Council of Westville approve the expenditure of up to $200,000 on Phase 2 of the Westville Water Project. Be it further resolved that Earth Water Concepts, Inc. is retained as consultant for Phase 2 in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Westville purchasing and tendering policy.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question?
Question.
Question.
Questions being called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. I think it's important. I think it's important to point out that we are not in a water crisis in the town, because I know from past discussions that we've had about looking at other sources of water and so on, the rumor has spread beyond our boundaries, in fact, that Westville is experiencing a water problem, supply problem. We do not have a water supply problem currently. This is just simply being proactive and looking down the road, as we should be, if we're doing our job properly, to the future and the needs of the town in the future when it comes to water. And I just want to emphasize that. I think it's extremely important that that message go out to the public, that this is not the case. I'm sad to say that I heard, and I hate to even say this because you hate to say things that you're hearing third hand or whatever, that, you know, a developer was told, don't look at Westville because they got a water problem.
Yeah.
They can't supply you with the water. It's not true. I want to say that right now. It's not true. I don't know if I can say it any stronger than that. We are being proactive and looking down the road to future years to come when, you know, in fact, through development, we will need more water. And so that's all this is about. And through the work of the CAO, once again, through the PCAP money and through the Housing Accelerator Fund money, which we can utilize for this purpose as well, it's not any extra money for us going to do this from the town coffers. So just want to emphasize that. I think it's very important.
Your Worship, I'd have to agree with, again, another great opportunity with funding that was found to be able to have an alternate source for water to increase. It just makes total sense to go down that road.
Your Worship, sorry to hear that there is that concept out there, but what we're doing is not just being proactive, it's the thing to do with a lot of the situations that may be forthcoming in this town.
Thank you very much. Moving on then, speaking of water, all this water we're getting, we got to meter it somehow, make sure we're keeping track of it properly.
Right.
So, water meter project.
Yeah, so no resolution on this, ladies and gentlemen, but I did just want to make sure everybody understood that, you know, I think I'll remind everybody that Westville's water meters are at end of life. The vast majority of them, well over 90%, are between 25 and 30 years of age, and they are failing and need to be replaced. And we've undertaken an RFP and received a number of qualified providers stepping forward to offer to do some work to replace all the water meters or all the old water meters in town. That project will be proceeding relatively soon. After the first meters will likely start to be replaced in early September, following the Labor Day long weekend. There will be on the 28th of August an open house here in this room where the proponent, the contractor, will be able to answer any questions that people may have. You'll be seeing a lot of notifications on our website and through Facebook and those sorts of things over the coming weeks and months. I anticipate this project to take us well into 2025. By well into, I mean kind of the spring of 2025 somewhere. And they'll be working through the town in a way that makes some sense. They'll start in one area, work on about 100 or 200 homes at a time, and then move to the next area. And so we'll have maps and all that sort of stuff available so that people can understand. You'll be able to register to have your water meter replaced at a date and a time that's convenient for, as convenient for you as it can be made. And they'll come in and they'll do the work they'll need entrance into your house to be able to swap out the meters, because for most people, those meters are in their basements or in their crawl spaces. And that work will proceed apace, and I think, in 5 or 6 months, we'll be done, and we'll have brand-new water meters, and people will be able to, we'll have access to very much more information, so we'll be able to actually tell if, we'll have 15-minute increments, so we'll be able to tell if somebody's left a tap on. We'll be able to demonstrate to residents if there's a leak, those sorts of things. And I think it'll provide a level of service that is just light years from where we are now. Currently we spend about 40 to 50 days a year reading water meters. We'll probably have it down to a couple of days once this project is done. So there'll be a huge labor savings, which means your public works guys will be doing stuff that you can actually see instead of just reading meters. And that'll be a huge step forward for this town.
Here,
Thank you very much. So people can look for that to start late,
Early September.
early fall.
Yeah.
And they'll be well identified, I'm assuming, the workers that'll be
They'll
coming in.
they'll all
so
have
people don't
they'll
to
have a
fear.
uniform. They'll have ID that and they'll show you the ID before they
And we will be
at the
putting
door.
out lots of notice
Lots of notice.
to the areas that are going to be addressed first, right? Very good. Moving on then, favorite part of the meeting, the number 10, public engagement and delegations. Anyone wishing to come before council can do so now. I simply ask that you state your name and your address and address your question or comments.
Good evening. Eric Orr, North Street. This won't be a North Street parade. I was here 2 months ago asking about plans to pave North Street. Now that Cowan Street has been successfully resurfaced and the stop sign, great job, by the way. I think that's a fantastic way to finish that off. That being a secondary road, I believe, into Westfall, North Street being its counterpart, I believe. A couple months ago, I asked that the council think about putting a date and some money aside when the budget was here and in, which it is now. Nothing's been done by my request to put some signs up regarding speed, very dangerous, going down the hill, going up the hill. Kids, there's no sidewalks on that darn street, so kids ride their skateboards and stuff right down North Street. Cars are zipping by there, and deers cross everywhere on the street. So I'd like that looked at the council can. It has not been that. One of those flashing things that tell you how fast you're going. Citizens put the loan up. That would be very important, good step forward. Now for the actual paving itself, it's probably a yes or no question. I doubt very much that anything's been done in the last 60 days to move anything forward, not a thought, not a process, not anything. Unacceptable. That street needs to be paved, it's been well documented, it's way overdue, somebody's gonna get hurt on that. I'd like to press you a little bit to get an engineering crew out there, have a look, see what it's gonna cost, put a date on it, put some money aside on the budgets, do the right thing and move this forward, not just talk about it, think about it for another 6 months. We need action down there. The street is unhappy. People on there are unhappy. They're all good tax-paying folks. Something should be done with Street and for the city. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rohr. I don't know if CAO Wares can bring anything to update us on the progress.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been anything, anything done, and you'll have noticed that in the budget, we didn't allocate any money to North Street specifically, but then that's not how usually budgeting for road work is done. So, what we do is we try and take a rational and informed, evidence-based approach to selecting the streets that get paved with our meager budget. And North Street is got some significant infrastructure realities to it, which includes, and I think we've mentioned this the last time you raised this, there is under and alongside of North Street significant infrastructure that needs to be replaced before paving the road. And that infrastructure will be many millions of dollars. And until we've sorted out a way to deal with the water and the water line that's under there, it doesn't make kind of sense really to repave the road only to dig it up downstream at some point. And so I agree with you entirely that North Street is in abysmal shape. And there's most of the streets in Westville are in abysmal shape. And it is the direct result of a number of years, many years, I would go on to say, of deferred maintenance. We're doing our best to try and in a rational and ordered way go through. And so we use a process of how much money do we have available to spend, which roads that are within that budget are the most used, and we're trying to work through that. We will get to North Street. When, I have no idea at this point. I mean, it would be a guess. Yeah, I don't know what to say beyond that, but I get your point. It's absolutely, you're absolutely right. And I wish if somebody would give me a magic wand, I'd go and doink North Street and make it new all over again if I could. It's just it's going to be a Westville mega project for sure. That one.
It's going to be akin to the Cowan Street project that suffered. It's a little bit different in I know it's different in a lot of respects. I know, but for many years since I came on council in 2012, Cowan Street was discussed, and it kept getting. It was earmarked to be done some 5 years ago for sure, if not more than that, 10 years ago maybe, and it kept getting pushed off because other streets rose to the level of traffic and condition. But more importantly, there was a realization that there was infrastructure work that had to be done on Cowan, and it made no sense to spend good money on paving without doing the infrastructure work. And until we had the money available and the time, in our budget and so on to do that, we didn't move forward with Cowan Street. We finally made the decision, as you know, in last year's budget to do that, and it was done this year. So it's a similar situation to North, and to echo what the CAO was saying, I think we are all aware of it. That doesn't help. That doesn't help to answer your question. I can say we hear you, and we will certainly. I think I said this before, and so I'm going to apologize because nothing has happened since then. But some of the things that you're asking for, I think, are things that we can address relatively easily. And I think if I hear you correctly, some of the things are addressing what you consider to be speeding, traffic issues, quite aside from the condition of the street. Those things I think that we can direct and ask to be addressed. And I apologize that it has not happened, because I do recall you saying that before, and I do recall me speaking similar words.
I'm sure there's one
And you know, the road to, you know, certain places paved with good intentions, and I apologize for that. But I think, and we have new, as you know, we just underwent a change in our chief of police. We have a new traffic authority, so he may not be as aware as our previous, you know, chief was of the situation there. We can bring that to the attention of police commission and the chief. So that one, the traffic count, you know, we could do a traffic count, I believe, without too much trouble. I'm looking down here at the back because there's a couple guys down there that, you know, with the Public Works that get settled with some of this stuff and know better than I what's going on with conditions and what needs to be done and how it can be done. But I you know, we can move on some of those things, I think.
And I think
And I'm sure you will, sir.
Your worship.
I'm just saying, there's no plan in place now.
Yeah.
No forethought.
No, and to go to what the CAO was saying, we don't necessarily, so next year, when we sit down to look at capital projects, I'm sure, I can say this, North Street will be on the list to be discussed. So we'll need a costing of how much it's going to cost to do what needs to be done there, and the valuation that the CAO was mentioned about as well, as far as doing it on a, you know, on a factual basis of criteria, you know, the traffic, number one, and the condition. The condition, we don't need to worry. I think we all know the condition is up there.
Sir,
You-
just one last thing, I'm sorry to keep.
Nope.
To talk about it next year is just fine, but there's so many things we could do before next year.
If I could comment.
Engineering, somewhere we could get
Yep.
good qualified people to look at it, give you quotes, et cetera, all that can be done now for that plan.
Your worship, like several council meetings ago, I had mentioned that we haven't received our 24-25 allotment for gas tax, and I suggested that we reserve a portion of that because we know it's going to be a big spend. And then when that does come in, then we look at, because we know we need the infrastructure underneath the road to be done, that we do get the engineering services done and scoped out, so at least we're ready for shovels in the ground when we do get the funding for it.
right.
Yeah, we do have
That
some.
can be done immediately.
Yeah, we do have some capital money that will be coming to us. We just don't know when, or we don't know the amount yet, because the so-called gas tax, you know, ended, and the province had to sign a new agreement with the feds, which they've done now, but we still haven't received notification, to my knowledge, as to when we're going to get that and what the amount is going to be. We believe it's going to be the same as what we received in the past, but we don't know, and we don't know what conditions are going to be put on it, different than what was on the conditions previously with regard to the gas tax money. But Councillor or Deputy Mayor makes a good point that that was raised as a possibility when that money comes available. What can we do with that money on
Yeah,
North Street?
I would just point out, though, that the gas tax money, when it does come, is in the quantum of a few hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, a year. And so, you know, when you think of North Street, and replacing water lines and rebuilding the road, it will be many millions of dollars. And so, you know, putting aside money, yes, absolutely, we need to do that, but that will take decades. And what we'll need to do is actually align, and your point about doing some of the engineering ahead of time is a good one, a valid one, but we'll have to line up for when some senior level of government provides a significant infrastructure program, because we won't, on the basis of our meager gas tax allocation on an annual basis, be able to afford North Street for many decades. So we, you know,
I understand what you're saying, I hear you completely, but leaving it alone is not the answer.
No.
Your worship, if I recall from assets management meetings, the infrastructure under North Street actually goes out to the county too.
Correct.
And we are selling water to the county, selling water that even goes to Northumberland Regional High School. And it's important that we get that water system right first before we do the paving there. And as mentioned, it's a mega cost, and we do have to get at it at some point.
And I think, if I understand what's being asked as well, and I agree, that in order, when it does come before us and when we have to make decisions on it, we need to know with some certainty what the costs are and what needs to be done, precisely what needs. So we do need to spend some money on engineering or looking at it as far as what needs to be done and what the exact cost is. So, and I concur with that. I agree with you on that point.
Even some preliminary costing or just review of the status of that infrastructure again, because, you know, my understanding is Oliver and his team last presented that particular linear asset report probably 6-7 years ago. That particular one came through. I think that one was one of the first ones done. So, I mean, we're, let's say 5-6 years out from even that last report, and we know things have just deteriorated. It hasn't gotten better under the ground, that's for sure.
And costs have accelerated.
So I guess, you know, there was preliminary work done. Well, I would say most of the engineer drawings were done for Cowan Street, probably, what, you were here longer than I've been, 5-8 years prior to that job ever happening.
Oh, yeah.
You know, probably longer. You know, there was some other stuff with the water, obviously, that came as an extra later. But my point is, I do think now that we finally have retained some engineer services, it most certainly is appropriate. And I think we've already kind of at a high level did discuss that maybe that's where we go between now and next year, to just have some form of, you know, I wouldn't even say costing, like just preliminary scoping even. You know, I think we can start plugging numbers in, but we don't know what we don't know when it comes to what needs to be done there, other than a pile of work.
And there are other streets in town that require the same look at, you know, so we know.
Well, it becomes a prioritization, and let's say, you know, again, through the status of infrastructure reports that we have at Asset Management, you know, if things were to happen as quickly as potentially they could up in around the old Highland Consolidated, you know, that could come to the top of the priority list for sewer and or water. I'm not sure all the status of the infrastructure there before South Main Street gets paved, which is also an arterial road, which would now be servicing, you know, so there's a lot of moving pieces to this to be considered, but I think even having some basic costing and knowing what we're talking about would be helpful for a lot of folks. And I think that's all that Mr. Orr is asking is, you know, can we at least get something?
Your Worship, we sort of have a two-pronged situation here, or two sides to a coin. As we've stated, I suppose, several times in this council chamber, that next to Toro, we have more streets. We have more roads than any other municipal units, any other towns in the province of Nova Scotia, which is really something. It's great from a development perspective, but we also not just have the streets, but we have the water and sewer lines that run underneath all of those streets, and the fact that some of those have existed for not just decades and decades, they've existed for a few generations of people. So we have a major problem as a unit without a lot of taxation capabilities to do all the things that need to be done. And I think we're trying desperately hard to do it. This council, I have to say, has been working diligently to try to do a lot of these things.
Thank you.
Just to note, and this was my first process of going through this year as a new counselor, but I believe it was April that we met and agreed upon within our budget the streets in Westville that would be paved from the 2024 year. And that was, at that point, released to the public as well. We posted what streets were going to be done. Unfortunately, North Street was not on the list at that time because of the cost. I think there are a couple of things that would be helpful in the meantime. One could be reaching out to the police department and having that sign put up that is recording people's speed. And also, I noticed the sign in Westville when it was recording the street on the speed on Cowan Street. It also told like people's survival rate if they were to be hit by a car based on how fast they were traveling. Hopefully giving people some perspective of the difference of hitting somebody going 20 kilometers an hour or going 90 like you're going down the highway in town in a residential area, which is, I know, a problem on a lot of our streets in Westville. Contacting police services to do that. Also, I believe Tim Houston's office will often put up signs that caution people to slow down. Children playing, we love our children. Having signs like that put into place to remind people who are driving that, you know, there are a lot of kids in the area, and like you mentioned, there's not sidewalks. I don't have sidewalks either, and that is a concern with young people and pets and traffic in general. So taking those things into account, you know, minus the fact that we don't really have the money, infrastructure to do the things that we want to do, and we agree with you on, I think those small steps would be beneficial and hopefully make a difference. It's a start into the problem, for sure. That's
Thank
all.
you. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Hearing none? Very good. We'll move on. Just wanted to remind everyone that a few meetings coming up. Our next Committee of the Whole meeting will be on the 19th of August here in Chambers at 6 p.m. Board of Police Commissioners may be interested in that one, Mr. Hoare. These are open meetings. These are all open meetings. The Board of Police Commissioners meets on the 20th of August here in Chambers. The Planning Advisory Committee, which is always a very informative and well worth attending meeting, is on the 21st of August. And the reference by the CAO, the open house with regard to the water meter project, so people wanting information on that, we're going to be, and we'll be advertising that a little more, is going to be here in Council Chambers on the 28th at 6 p.m. to give out information on that. And our next regular council meeting will be on the 26th of August here in Chambers once again. And the final thing that before we close, I just want to mention, remind people of our Megan's Place sign unveiling, which is going to be taking place on Wednesday, 2 days hence, at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. in the afternoon, down at the accessible entrance to the park at 1973 South Main Street. And I said today, I put a post on today on my page, but we're billing it. It is about the unveiling of the sign at the location where the park is going to be. And I'm sure that most people are aware of the reason for this park coming into place, the accessible inclusive playground. Megan Bragg, our former colleague who passed away on July 31st last year. That's why we're doing it on Wednesday, which is July 31st, and the sad anniversary of her passing. And as important as it is to reveal the sign and to speak about the fundraising that we've done and where we are, and let the public know that, and to unveil the sign, as I've said, and talk about next steps, I think it's equally important that as a community, and of those people that knew Megan, have an opportunity to come together to at least celebrate Megan's life. And I propose that it's going to be twofold in that regard. We've been promoting it as the sign unveiling, but I want to say that in my mind, at least, it's also an opportunity to have a celebration of Megan's life, and a large part of her family are going to be in attendance, so people will be able to show their respects to them. We have some dignitaries be there as well, including the Premier and our Member of Parliament, the Honourable Sean Fraser, as well as council and colleagues from around the county. So I encourage people to come out, if at all possible, at 2 o'clock on Wednesday to recognize Megan's place and to recognize and remember Megan at that time. So with that, I say thank you. We've come to the end of the agenda, and I declare the meeting adjourned.
No in camera? So no in camera?
Oh, we have to go on camera first.
There's in camera.
Oh, do you have it in camera?
Yeah.
I don't have it,
We don't have it.
Okay.
unless you want to.
No, I don't have
you want
it.
it.
No.
It's on the agenda.
I'm happy.
You had said there
I
was
think
one.
it's just on there.
You had said there was one.
I think it's on there all the time.
Yeah, I don't, what was the, I don't think, what was I on about?
I think it's just on there.